After humans are shrunk 2,000 times, anyone can become a billionaire. The trash produced by 5 billion tiny humans is still less than the amount an adult generates in a single day. A villa costs only a few $100s, and even a single biscuit can last for an entire year. Diamonds and necklaces are available for free. The most important part is that your wealth will multiply by 1,000 times. Nick and his wife, with their modest income, were immediately intrigued by the idea. They decided to undergo the shrinking procedure. First, they had to shave off all body hair. Then, all their teeth were removed. Finally, everyone was ushered into a chamber. The staff activated the switch with a key. Once the temperature was adjusted to the right level, they waited for 30 minutes. The shrinking process was complete. The nurses then used a small shovel to lift the shrunken people and placed them onto a cart. They were handed over to a smaller nurse, who took charge. At this point, the nurse presented a biscuit large enough to feed a tiny human for a year. Soon, Nick's wife called. It turned out that she had gotten scared and decided to cancel the procedure. Nick was furious, unable to believe that his wife had abandoned him. Heartbroken, he moved into his new home. Although it was a villa, he could not bring himself to feel any joy. The shrinking procedure was irreversible. Before long, Nick received a package containing his wife's wedding ring and a divorce agreement. Half of his assets were taken, and he had to move out of the villa, replacing it with a modest apartment. To make matters worse, he still had to continue working. In order to alleviate his loneliness, Nick began dating other women. However, after kissing one of them, he realized he didn't feel any love. It wasn't until one day when he encountered a disabled housekeeper that things began to change. Nick, under the pretext of offering a massage, struck up a conversation. Seeing his kindness, the housekeeper asked him to follow her and help more people. Soon, they were traveling through a tunnel, heading to another area. When they arrived, Nick was stunned. He had never expected to find a slum in this world. The people living here were mostly elderly and impoverished. Annie had been working as a caregiver here, and her kindness deeply moved Nick. He decided to stay and help the residents. As they spent more time together, Nick and Annie began to develop feelings for each other. One day, Nick met the scientist who had invented the shrinking process. They were now working on a new underground facility. This place contained all the resources humans would ever need. Even if the world were to end, the people underground could continue living without worry.